Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's 9 p.m. in Tunis. It's 9 p.m. also in Lagos. Welcome, everyone, to our live talk tonight, because our live talk tonight is about entrepreneurial leadership and courage with the great man, one of my mentors in JCI, one in my mentors in entrepreneurship. I'm really honored tonight to host one of the most outstanding trainer in Africa, also Kalada APIAFI from Nigeria. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for accepting my invitation tonight.
Hi, Fares. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. Let me introduce you. You are entrepreneur for 35 years, mainly in consulting and training, with a stint in oil and gas services as operations director. You are international training fellow, which is the highest title in JCI University. 2 years public service experience as a consultant in the River State Energy Bureau and secretary. Also, you are part of a team that set up River State Sustainable Development Agency, actively involved in JCI since 1983. By the way, I was born in 1984. So you started JCI before my birth and held several positions at local and national levels in JCI Nigeria. You are JCI Senator, life member since 1977, and past Secretary General, JCI Africa and Middle East, also Senate Association, co-founder of a group of schools in Port Harcourt and Abuja, Nigeria, served as also advisory board of FATE Foundation. We'll talk about FATE Story tonight at Port Harcourt, and board of FATE Foundation. Presently, you are chairman, board of governors, Brookstone School, chairman also of Wider Perspectives Ltd, management consultants, and director both and company insurance brokers, and JVE Projects Ltd. Presently, you are chairman also of Learning and Development Network, International Port Harcourt chapter. You visited several countries. You are also driven by a passion to see your country developing. You're working for Nigeria a lot, and you are also focused on developing missions and strategies. I'm really honored today to host you again, Kalada, and we start the journey together tonight with your story, because you started entrepreneurship 35 years ago. But what's your background?
Yeah, thanks, Fares. Basically, I studied business administration, at both undergraduate and master's level. So I have an MBA.
Nice.
And I would say I stumbled into consulting because we have what we call the national service here in Nigeria. And so I started working with the consultancy at that stage. And then when I finished my 1-year mandatory national service, I got into Coopers and Lybrand Associates, leading management consulting firm. It's now PricewaterhouseCoopers. And yeah, I worked for 1 or 2 other consultancies before I decided to venture out on my own in 1985. So from about 1980 to 85, I was working for people. And then in 1985, precisely August 1st, I decided to venture out. Then I was about 28. It was a tough decision, but I've always felt, one should take the bull by the horn at any time and try to realize your dreams.
Yeah, that's the big challenge. A lot of people are seeing us actually on Facebook, and I think that they are asking themselves when and why I should take the decision to to go for entrepreneurship and to take the risk. What about you?
Yes, like you said in the introduction, I'm strongly motivated by the need for not only my country, but for other African countries to develop. I believe it is possible. And the only way to realize it is to, be in the field, which is consulting, where at least you can advise policy makers. We've been involved in quite a few studies for policy making. And you can also, fortunately, like you pointed out also, I got involved with a FATE Foundation. And I've also been able to be part of a group that is involved in developing entrepreneurs. Because like you know, entrepreneurs are very important to any economy. There's a statement by Abraham Maslow that says the most important 100 people to bring into an economy are actually entrepreneurs, not politicians.
I agree.
And therefore, yeah.
Why or when, let's say, did you make the decision? Is it a meeting? Is it a mentor? Is it an incident? Let's focus on details, because I think in the entrepreneurship life, there is the big moment. Yeah, this is the moment I have to switch on and to go for entrepreneurship. So is it a mentor? Is it an advice? Is it an incident or something like that?
Okay, essentially, like I said earlier on, I studied business administration at both undergraduate and a postgraduate level. And of course, when you do a course like that, you always feel you can run a company. Yeah. In fact, from your year one, you feel you can run a company. But fortunately, I did what is called a sandwich course. And therefore, after 2 years, you go and spend a year in industry. And I found out that it was an illusion that I could run a business just straight out of university.
Yeah.
So it was a dream I had right from school. And that's why I decided to work for about 5 years before setting up business. Because like I said, during the year of industrial training, 1 year industrial training, I discovered it was an illusion that because you have an MBA or you have a degree in business, you can automatically run a business.
That's amazing.
And that year, that 1 year was very, very, very enlightening. Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think about the new generation who want to run a company just after the graduation? You are part of X generation. Now we are dealing with the Z or the Z generation. They are trying to grow up faster, to run the startup. What do you think about that? Because you mentioned that you thought that you can run something after an MBA, but it was an illusion.
Yes. I mean, we're talking about 1980 or in the 70s, and now we're talking about 2020. So there's a gap of about, 45 years thereabouts, 40, 45 years thereabouts. So things have changed. It's quite possible now because, like I said, you have FATE Foundation, you have a lot of entrepreneurship courses. And like my friend, the president of the Port Harcourt Chamber of Commerce said that, when you want to be a doctor, you go to medical school. You want to be an engineer, you go to an engineering school. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, you go to a school of entrepreneurship. And now there are schools of entrepreneurship. Like I said, an MBA doesn't necessarily prepare you for entrepreneurship. So if you want to be an entrepreneur right away from school, you still have to go to a school of entrepreneurship.
Which are?
To get those skills. Well, in Nigeria, we have FATE Foundation, which is an NGO. We have the EDC of the Lagos Business School too. So I believe in other parts of the world, there are also entrepreneurship schools. There are incubators for developing businesses, where you're also giving business support. So really and truly, if you want to be an entrepreneur right from school, like I said, you need to have some entrepreneurship training. And just like you mentioned once or twice along the line, you need a mentor. That's one of the things I missed. I didn't have a mentor at the beginning, and therefore it was very tough.
I see. We'll be back to mentorship.
Okay.
Now, I would like to ask you, because you have a great experience in entrepreneurship, what are the qualities, or let's say the skills that an entrepreneur needs to start a startup or a company?
Okay. Well, the very first skill is you have to have planning skills. You have to be able to do a business plan. Okay. I mean, there are consultants that can do it for you, but you also have to understand what a business plan entails. So if somebody does it for you, you understand, you can say whether it's a good job or not. But more or less, it's also ideal for you to be able to do a business plan. So the first skill is planning skills, because I mean, you know, they say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That's the very first skill you need. I'd also like to talk about traits to qualities. You have to have a lot of self-discipline, self-motivation, because nobody's going to tell you get up in the morning and go to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't go to work, your business is going to fail. Or if you don't work, your business is going to fail. I mean, now in the new normal, I mean, you can work from anywhere. That's one of the good things about the new normal. So you have to have a lot of personal discipline. You have to have branding skills. You have to brand yourself. Yeah. So, I mean,
let's talk a little bit about branding or self-branding.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, you have to have a lot of personal discipline. One of the things is you have to arrive on time for meetings. You have to arrive on time for appointments. You have to manage your time very well. You have to watch how you dress. Even if you want to wear jeans, you have to wear clean jeans. Okay, so you have to establish those kind of things. And most of all, you must have integrity. If you don't have integrity, you will succeed for some time, but it will catch up with you.
What means for you integrity?
Honesty in dealing with people, keeping to promises. So like I talked about punctuality. I mean, if a customer or a client gives you an appointment for 8 a.m., you better show up by 8 a.m. Don't show up by 8:15 and start making excuses. Okay. So keeping to promises and being honest in dealing with people.
The clothes, what we wear during a meeting is still important even in 2020?
Yes, because irrespective of we're in a digital era, there will still be face-to-face contact. I can tell you a story. When I first started working, I was very lucky to read an article on packaging yourself. So you actually have to package yourself as an entrepreneur. You don't have to wear a suit, but you have to dress decently. Okay, you have to dress for the occasion. I mean, if you're going for a business meeting, you dress as if you're going for a business meeting. If you're going for a party, I mean, it's a social outing with your client, you also dress appropriately. You don't decide because my client has invited me for dinner, I can go in shorts.
Yeah.
Okay, so those things are very important because, like, it will put you in good stead. For example, I have a friend who is a stickler for time, and when he doesn't arrive on time for a meeting, people think he's ill. They wonder there must be something wrong. So it's like it's a reference point.
I see.
And of course, if you're not punctual for meetings, I think it's impolite.
I think too. That's very important. Let's focus on your field or your specialty, like consulting and training. You started this journey 35 years ago. Do you feel lucky to find yourself, let's say, with few people in that domain at that period? Because now everyone is a consultant, everyone is a trainer. It's
Yeah.
not easy to start such kind of business.
Yes, I wouldn't say I was lucky because the market, we also had to develop the market to an extent, especially where I was living in River State. But irrespective of any stage of market development, once you have some market uniqueness, you will succeed.
What's uniqueness for you as an entrepreneur?
Uniqueness for me as an entrepreneur is being 100% in tune with the client.
Mm-hmm.
Not 95%, not 90%. I give you a typical example. A client sent me a message at 5 o'clock this morning that email you sent me, I didn't get it. Can you resend it immediately? And I did without any complaint. He apologized for contacting me so early in the morning, but I did it without grumbling or any complaint because I'm expecting business from him.
Yeah.
But some people will grumble and say, why should this man contact me by 5 a.m. on a Sunday?
Yeah, this is disrespect.
Yeah. So,
you're flexible.
Yes, I'm flexible, exactly. I work on public holidays. I study the body language of clients. I study their needs and try to meet them, like I said, 100%.
Yeah, it's empathy.
As, of course, with my colleagues. I've also trained my colleagues to be in that mood. Yeah, exactly. And one of the influences was Daniel Pink, who wrote that it's human to sell. It's a very good book to read if you want to be in attunement with your client or your customers, because that's the business. The customer is the business, so you better be 100% in tune with them. In fact, 101% if possible.
Yeah.
So that's uniqueness for us.
Very good. Let's talk a little bit about the associations, NGOs, Junior Chamber International, which was the Worldwide Federation of Entrepreneurship and Leaders. How JCI influenced positively, let's say, your business and your entrepreneurship adventure?
Okay. Of course, JCI is a worldwide network. I'm sure I wouldn't be on this program if I wasn't a member of the JCs. Yeah. Okay, so it's a worldwide network. It has enabled me to meet people all over the world. So one of the businesses we provide is raising funds for clients. And I would say most of the time, we do it with JCs in other parts of the world, like USA, Belgium, even Japan. So it's a very strong network. And it's also a place where I developed my interpersonal skills, because there was I've undergone a lot of training on how to work with people, which is very important. I've also been able to, that's where I practice my training skills. I've also been able to develop expertise in negotiation. And that's a very critical skill. I've also been able to develop expertise in communication, because as an entrepreneurial leader, you have to have extraordinary communication skills, not just the communication skills that people have from the road. You have to have extraordinary communication skills, including body language.
I see.
Yeah, and then of course, again, as an executive vice president of JCI Nigeria, I had to chair a lot of meetings. As a chapter president too, I had to chair a lot of meetings. And that's where I garnered my chairmanship skills. So most times it's a natural for me to be chairman of a board or any association I'm involved in. It comes natural.
Yeah, I was surprised. I knew you from, let's say, from the JCI World Congress in Tunisia. We met the first time in 2009. And I was surprised when I received your biography, because managing a lot of companies at the same time is a big challenge. How do you deal with that challenge?
Yes, the first thing, like I said, is every business I'm involved with starts with a business plan. And in that business plan, a critical thing is to develop the structure. So like wider perspectives, I've been able to transit from the managing director to the chairman, and therefore there's a managing director for wider perspectives. And the same thing applies to all the other businesses I'm involved in. They're basically on autopilot. So I'm basically checking things. I'm ensuring that corporate governance is maintained. So I insist on meetings, board meetings. I insist on policies. Policies have to be in place. I ensure that marketing is going on. So I assist with marketing and business development. And of course, last but not the least, I ensure we're making money.
That's a very important part of entrepreneurship also, because it's not an NGO, it's not JCI, it's a business. Yeah, I see. But when you are talking about autopilot, let's focus on the hidden part of the iceberg, because the autopilot will not be turned on directly. You have to prepare people to train them and to delegate a lot to them, and that's a big the big experience also. What would you like to share about that?
Okay, essentially, I must say that I also attend a lot of courses. I attend a lot of courses. So I've attended courses on corporate governance. I've attended about 2 or 3. Because I'm involved in school business, I've attended a course on school governance. And therefore, I know my bounds. Yeah, because you don't want to be conflicting as the chairman. The last thing you want to do is to be conflicting with the chief executive or to be doing his job or her job. Yeah. So, and just like you've said, I do a lot of training in most of the organizations I'm involved with. And I also try to ensure that what I've learned is not a secret. I try to disseminate it. I tell a lot of stories. I think sometimes people even get fed up of the stories and sometimes run away. But yeah, there's a lot of experience sharing. And like I said, we have budgets and plans at the beginning of the year. And one thing I must say is I also ensure that there's strategic plans. So we know where we know where we want to be in, say, 5 years' time. So we're not just stumbling into opportunities. We're actually seeking for the opportunities and also learning a lot about strategy, because that's at the end of the day, that's what's going to determine whether you win or not in the marketplace.
I see.
Having said that, I've also been involved with businesses that fail. So I don't want people to be under the illusion that, you know, everything Kalada touches is a success. So again, I'm able to cope with failure. And that's one thing I also want to recommend to entrepreneurs, that you really need to develop yourself psychologically so that you don't, you know, go into depression.
Managing stress.
Exactly, or commit suicide because the business has failed, because it's part of success. Yes, and don't blame yourself, because sometimes it's market factors. Market factors. I mean, one of the businesses that I was involved in that failed, it was actually a licensing arrangement. So once there was a decline in the Naira, it became difficult, and the licensing fees were supposed to be paid in dollars. So once our currency declined, it made the business very difficult to be sustainable. So we had to close it up. We had to close it down. Yeah.
And you accepted the situation. You are let's say a fair play man when we talk about business. So you accept also a failure.
Yeah.
Very good. Business starts with an idea. After that, we will have a vision to set smart goals and objectives. Uh, is it your own vision, or you come up with a common vision or a group vision?
It's of course at the initial stage, it's your vision, but eventually, because then maybe you start with a business plan, like I said, but somewhere along the line, after 2 or 3 years, you need to transit from planning to strategy, and at that point, the vision has to be common. So we can sit down and decide on the vision. And one of the things I also recommend is that let your vision be simple. Don't have a vision that, when your vision is 10 sentences, nobody's going to remember it. So it's just a waste of time. So let your vision be simple.
One sentence.
Always, remind people about the vision. In fact, it motivates people because the vision tells people clearly where you're going. And it's a very strong motivator for people.
And as an entrepreneur, are you recruiting people like you or different profiles? What about your group, your colleagues, your team?
Yeah. Well, as an entrepreneur, if you recruit everybody like you, it's a shortcut to failure. Because one of the things you have to do as an entrepreneur is entrepreneurship involves some things that you don't like. For example, if you don't like figures, one of the first things you have to do as an entrepreneur is as soon as you start to make money, you have to get an accountant if you don't like figures.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so you have to have a mix. You have to have diversity in terms of skills, in terms of
behavior,
gender, and in terms of even tribe. So you have to have different people. And one of the things I learned in one of the corporate governance courses I attended, they said if you don't have people in your organization that can say no to you, you're in trouble. So you also have to recruit people that can say no. I don't think we should do this. And then you go back home and reflect. So what I'm trying to say is that also don't recruit yes men.
Yeah,
you get in trouble.
I agree with you, but you have to be so humble as an entrepreneur, as a boss, as a manager to accept all those feedback from your team.
Yes, I strongly believe that in this day and age, and COVID has brought that out, you have to be humble.
Kalada? I think it's an internet connection issue. Yeah.
When you
go ahead.
Okay. When you pretend you're a Superman, people see through it. People see through it. So just be humble, be human. Like COVID brought out the humanity in everyone, where we keep on asking ourselves, are you safe? Are you well? And things like that. So it shows at the end of the day, you're a human being, as an entrepreneur, some things will happen. If you need to cry as an entrepreneur. Don't hold it back.
In front of your team?
Like I said.
Even in front of your
why
team?
Not? Why not? Why not? Of course, not every day.
Because they will cry with you. And business won't go well.
I know. Yeah. I know for a man, people always wonder when you're crying, people get worried as a man. But care for people. Like a lot of times, like I give you a typical example. One day, one of my colleagues came to the house without a face mask. I gave her a face mask. I keep a lot of them because your colleagues feel more comfortable if they know that you're human. They feel a lot more comfortable with you. I've had colleagues come into my office and say, one was my friend's son, okay? And one day he came into my office and said that it seems I've forgotten that he's the son of my friend. Yeah, but I guess if I didn't make myself humble enough, he wouldn't have come into my office to tell me that. And it mellowed me down a bit with him because, of course, sometimes you're stricter with people like that, so they don't take advantage of the fact that
Hmm. I want to say hi to Catherine Bretignac from JCI France. She said, happy to
Okay.
see Kalada. She's an ITF also from JCI
Oh, great.
University. Hi, Catherine. Thank you so much for being here. Hi, Nuran. Hi, Adenike from Nigeria, I think. Sandra Davids. Also, a lot of people are watching us. You can interact. You can ask your questions. We are live now with Kalada APIAFI, a multipreneur, also international trainer and speaker. Let's move to the great foundation, FATE Story. When I heard the name first time, I was thinking fake story. No, it's FATE Story, FATE Foundation. What's FATE Foundation?
Yeah, FATE Foundation. Incidentally, the lady you just mentioned, Adenika, is the ED, Executive Director of FATE Foundation. Thanks, Adenike, for taking part in this program. Yeah, FATE Foundation is the leading entrepreneurship organization in Nigeria. Started 20 years ago. It was founded by Fares Ben Souilah, one of the founders of GT Bank, which is one of the leading banks in Nigeria. And his primary motivation was the fact that, you know, when they had vacancies, thousands of people will apply. So out of those thousands, they'll only recruit about 100. So he asked himself one day, what happens to the rest of them?
That's a great question.
Decided to, yeah, and decided to promote an NGO to establish entrepreneurship as a viable alternative to employment. So recollect earlier on, I had said that if you want to be an entrepreneur, you should go to an entrepreneurship school. So that's basically one of the gaps that FATE has filled in Nigeria. And I recommend it to other countries because it's not 100% success rate of the entrepreneurs, but they guarantee, they improve your chances of succeeding. Because a lot of entrepreneurs fail because they don't have sufficient information. For instance, some of them feel that marketing is selling. It's not.
It's all the same thing. Yeah.
Some of them don't have writing skills. You know, they feel that, you know, to write is a very easy thing, just like you write love letters, you can write proposals, but they're very different. So FATE takes you through all these things. And at the end of the day, they also provide you with mentorship. And that has been, for me, one of the values, not only for the entrepreneurs, but also for me, because I've made a lot of young friends, and some of them also mentor me now, especially when it comes to IT and social media and digital selling and things like that, because of course they have a lot more knowledge than me. So that has been one of the interesting journeys I've had with FATE, apart from, you know, being on the board. So it's, like I said, it's the leading entrepreneurship NGO in Nigeria. And they're also involved in advocacy. So they have a policy dialogue. So they also advocate for favorable conditions for SMEs, which is very important. Because again, sometimes the government doesn't know how harsh the environment is, because they go to work every day and they get their salaries. And, you know, they see the entrepreneur turnover is very high, and they just feel that, look, let's tax these people a bit more because we're looking for money. You know, but businesses have to be sustained.
Yeah. Why do you think a mentorship is very important for entrepreneurs?
Okay, because entrepreneurship, you require a lot of information. Okay. Entrepreneurship, you make mistakes. So it's good if you can avoid some of those mistakes, which is what the mentor does for you.
What kind of mistakes did you made during your journey? Because you mentioned at the beginning that you don't have the chance to get mentors at the starting.
Yes, one of the mistakes I made actually was I wasn't a very good negotiator.
Mm-hmm.
I know for consulting services, you know, you have to value yourself very well. Otherwise, you won't earn commensurate fees. Okay. And then I wasn't, part of my not being a good negotiator also was that I wasn't documenting enough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so some of the jobs I did for clients, I just started the work without any agreement. And somewhere along the line, you know, I was shafted. They refused to pay, and there was no agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah.
I lived the same cases, so I know what you're saying now.
Yeah. So, yeah, so, I mean, it helps you avoid some of the mistakes. And then, yeah, it gives a mentor gives you a lot of information and guidance. Again, your mentor can take you into places where ordinarily you won't go into. Yeah, so I mean, if I want to, you know, help a mentee, I first of all say, well, this person is my mentee. So already, you know, the person knows that he's also doing me a favor. So you open a lot of doors for people. And that's one of the most difficult things for an entrepreneur. I mean, I used to go for meetings and people would look at me and say, who is this guy? I mean, I traveled all the way from Port Harcourt to Lagos. It's about 600 kilometers. It's a 45-minute flight for a meeting with my dad's friend. I wanted to be independent, so I didn't tell my dad I was going to see his friend. And he didn't even offer me a seat. We had our meeting standing. So if I had seen my dad as a mentor, I would have told him I was going for the meeting, and he would have told me, my son is coming to see you, and I would have been offered a seat.
Yeah, it's amazing, but I believe that I don't know what's your idea or what do you think about that, but I believe that not everyone can be a mentor because it's a choice, it's a personal choice, I think.
Yes. Yes, yeah, not everyone can be a mentor because it's also time consuming.
Yeah, and energy.
Yeah, energy, and you have to make the time. You have to make the time for it, and then you have to be what would I call it? You have to have a service attitude. Because I've told some of my friends, why don't you come and be a mentor? And they say, look, Kalada, what are you talking about? You know, I don't do those kind of things. So there's some people who would rather, unfortunately, there are some people who would rather be drinking beer in the club than mentoring young people. Like you said, it's a choice.
Is it your origins, your family, your background, your JCI? What's the secret? Because running in mentorship, it's not really easy for everyone. What do you think? What's the secret? What's the origin of that?
Well, I think it's a combination, but you know, consulting work is service. JCI is also service, and you know, in my journey, I met quite a few people who said, "Oh, my dad helped them some years ago." Not necessarily financially, but you know, by giving them some guidance. In fact, there was a day I went for a meeting with somebody I was told was a very difficult person. And the meeting was so smooth, I couldn't believe it, you know. And then towards the end of the meeting, he said, are you the younger brother to my dad? He felt I was my dad's younger brother because, I mean, as an entrepreneur, I started growing early. So I said, no, it's my dad. He said, wow. And he said that my dad advised him to go back to school while he was working, because then in Nigeria, you work for about 9 months before the university resume, because you do your A-level exams in December and universities resume in October. And then, of course, some people just continue working after that. But I said it was my dad that advised him to go back to school. So, yeah, to some extent, it's also natural. But I love it. I love doing it now. You know, and like I said, I lay the ground rules. I mean, you know, I don't expect you to come by 8 a.m. on a Monday. So I try to make appointments for my mentees. And like I said, some of them help me. Some of them go to my LinkedIn page and say, your LinkedIn page is not good enough, and they help me improve it. And one of them, I'm actually getting more visits as a result of our advice. So it's a two-way traffic, actually. There's a saying that nobody can help another without helping himself. I can't remember who said that, but there's a quotation like that.
Good. What's the big accomplishment that make you proud when we think about your journey, your entrepreneurship adventure?
Yes, one is, being able to keep the business going for 35 years. There are a lot of businesses run by better people than me that have collapsed, including banks. So I think that's a major accomplishment. Then I've also been able to, transit. Okay, I've been able to transit to another generation of management. So like I said, there's a managing director now, and I'm chairman of the board. And there's a lot of corporate governance now compared to when we started. In fact, I resisted corporate governance because I wanted to just decide on everything and have my own way. But there's a lot of benefit from corporate governance. I recommend to any entrepreneur that as soon as your business grows to a certain extent, or even at the beginning, get a board. It's a support system. You don't know everything. And some directors come from an angle, they have the time to ask questions that probably you won't ask because you're too involved in the business. They can look from a distance and say, hey, there's this loophole here. But you're too involved in the business to spot that loophole. And then sometimes we get carried away by ideas. So you need somebody to tell you that, look, this idea is not so good, not as good as you think it is.
I see.
So basically keeping the business going for 35 years, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
And transiting.
Yeah, a few months ago, we were in panic, confined. We are facing an invisible enemy, a virus, which is the coronavirus. And a lot of people are still in panic and frustrated, blocked, that cannot move on after this period or in this new never normal. How much time did you take to restart your business when you heard about the virus and restarted the confinement?
Yes, we didn't shut down at all. We immediately did a business continuity plan. Immediately. And yes, and some of the things we started doing were things we had been planning, like, doing more things digitally. Yeah, even training digitally. It was just that, we felt, well, we can do it anytime we feel like. Okay, so we had a business continuity plan, and most of all, we kept in touch with our clients, not necessarily to ask for business, but to ask if they were okay. And in that process, business discussions started. Some didn't want to do things virtually. We also had to go through that process of trying to let them know that, look, this is the only way out. And some of them said that, look, we have to have policies, that we can't just, we can't do training virtually. It may not be recognized. So we also went through a process of advocacy, persuading them and things like that. But, the thing with consulting, maybe we're lucky. The thing with consulting is that, with the pandemic, businesses started having problems. So they had to talk to consultants.
Yeah.
So we didn't really shut down. We worked from home for quite a long time. And like I said, we started having Zoom meetings, meeting through Skype, which we had been doing, but we have been meeting through Skype and Zoom with our foreign partners or foreign associates. But now we started doing it locally. And it worked for us.
But switching to the digital, let's focus on the culture, because I believe that we are actually in Africa, Tunisia, Nigeria, etc. Switching to the digital work or remote work is not really easy. So you started your Zoom meetings with the foreign companies, but still working on the Nigerian culture, let's say.
Yes, and that's why, like I said earlier on, we had to persuade a lot of we had to persuade a lot of clients, yeah, that look, we can actually have this meeting by Zoom rather than coming over to see you. And of course, when the lockdown came, we didn't have any choice.
Yeah.
We had to switch over to digital. And like I said, people have started seeing the benefits because you save a lot of money. I mean, I used to hop around in planes a lot. In fact, people call me, the first question is, Kalada, where are you? And I say, why are you asking me this question? Oh, you're always traveling. And then when you combine it with traveling for JCs, so, it's also a cost-saving method. But of course, having said that, there's still need for face-to-face once in a while.
Good. And what about education? Because you are involved in schools. So were you ready to switch to digital education, digital teaching?
Yes, because we had been doing that during the vacation. Because we like to keep our students busy during the vacation, especially the long vacation, the summer. So we have been doing a bit of that. So again, the staff, and that's what I said earlier on, you have to train your staff. You have to train your staff in any area, flexibility, give them that can-do spirit. So again, even in the schools, it wasn't very difficult because again, the heads of the schools are proactive. They undergo a lot of training. We have a lot of meetings, and therefore it was an expectation. So we also transited fairly well into it. And then we've done a lot of IT training. We've, we have an IT acquisition scheme. So they have the equipment. They all had their computers and all that. So again, it wasn't too difficult to transit. Rather, maybe in some cases, some of the parents, were talking about the need to acquire data and all that. It was expensive. So of course, we were not running school, the whole time. It was like a few hours a day and all that, and also getting feedback from the parents. And of course, the government, I think, needed to be a bit more supportive because rather than, finding out what the challenges of the schools were, they say we should come and pay a fee for training digitally. We told them we've been training digitally for a long time, so we don't need a license. What are they providing? Are they providing the backbone? They're not providing the backbone. So why do they want to charge us to be able to train digitally? Yet they were saying we shouldn't charge fees. So I think one of the things in Africa is that governments need to understand entrepreneurs a lot more and know that it's their responsibility to help entrepreneurs grow because they provide the jobs. Most of the times when government says they're creating jobs on paper. They're not creating any jobs. It's the jobs entrepreneurs create that they claim that they created jobs. Sometimes they provide the environment, maybe they provide contracts and all that. But I believe that government needs to understand entrepreneurs a lot more in Africa. I think some of them should go and work in private firms, like 1 year in a private firm. So you know what entrepreneurs go through. Because it's not easy to be an entrepreneur. It's not easy to run a business in Africa.
Yeah, and we have some comments here. Let's interact with our friends. We have Gafar.
Okay.
The gap is more visible in the northern part of the country. I guess it's about Nigeria. And we have an international trainer from Tunisia, Nizar Ben Salim. He told us that between Port Harcourt and Lagos, we should update the approach. How is the situation in Port Harcourt? They need more support than the other Nigerian towns. Do you have a comment about that?
Well, yes. Yeah, like Gafar says, yeah, there's a gap between the north and the south. But I mean, gaps are, situations are dynamic. And that's why the government needs to support businesses more. government and the private sector can do more things to bridge the gap. Because again, you know, politicians, I mean, like somebody said, you know, it's the private sector that moves economies. The government should provide the environment, but they are, you know, they interfere a lot rather than being supportive. So when they're short of money, they look for one new tax, and that doesn't do anything. It actually kills businesses. Yeah, right now there's a law that, you know, they said stamp duty when they were looking for money. Now we're in court with government that, you know, they say they're not allowed to collect stamp duty. They've lost the case, but I'm sure they'll go to appeal and all that. You know, entrepreneurs need to survive and for there to be peace. When people have jobs to go to, they won't go about making trouble. Port Harcourt and Lagos. Yeah, there's a gap. One of the reasons is, you know, and that's what I'm saying, the ports in Lagos more than the ports outside Lagos. Calabar developed a big city, Tinapa, a very big shopping mall that, you know, could compare with any in Dubai. They just needed some adjustments to the Calabar port, and it wasn't done, and therefore Tinapa failed. So there's need for more dialogue and the private sector. Otherwise, you know, the country can't develop. The country can't develop. If you stifle business, okay, take for example in the COVID. I mean, if people couldn't produce face masks, everybody would have been dead by now. That's just to show you the importance of entrepreneurs. It wasn't government that provided face masks. It was entrepreneurs that just went into the business and started providing these things. So government has to see that, you know, it's not their job alone. The private sector is ready to help to develop the country. Like I said earlier on, I went into business to help to develop my country. So, but when they feel it's their responsibility, or it's a them and us situation, it's not a them and us situation. We're all from the same country. We're all patriotic. There's nobody that is more, the government people are not more patriotic than the businessmen. I know a lot of times they think, oh, business people are crooks. They try to evade tax. They try to avoid tax and things like that. But most times they avoid, yeah, it's legitimate to avoid tax. Yeah. So it's tax evasion that is a bad thing. And a lot of us pay our taxes. I mean, there was a day I went, they came to tax office. He went through the file 10 times because he couldn't believe that we're up to date with our taxes. You know, they came to lock the building, not even my own office, the building, just to embarrass us. You know, those things are very unnecessary because entrepreneurship is very hard work. Yeah. And many of them can't do that kind of hard work. They close by about 4 o'clock and go and do their, they come and do business with us too, you know.
Yeah. When I met you first time, when I saw you first time, I said, this is a wise man. This is wisdom. I was really happy to see you. I don't know why. Is it important to be wise as an entrepreneur, especially in that period?
Yes, I believe that it's important to be wise as a human being, especially when you get to a particular age, because you've had so much experience. For instance, you have to decide when to speak, whether to speak or not. Sometimes you just need to keep quiet. Yeah. You also need to show maturity. For example, if somebody makes a mistake, the person is already feeling bad that I goofed. So don't rub it in by saying, I told you. You make the person feel worse. So I think as a human being, you need to be wise after some time. You have to develop yourself. You know, even as an entrepreneur, even your diet is important. Your diet is important. The hours you sleep. Don't feel because you're an entrepreneur. Don't listen to those people that say they sleep 4 hours. And most of them are not telling the truth. They're just trying to tell a nice story. You should sleep 8 hours. And one of the skills you should develop is napping. I nap a lot. If I'm tired, I will take a nap. Especially if I'm at a social function. I mean, my friends know me. I'll be sitting next to you and I take a nap for about 5-10 minutes and I come out re-energized. Exercise. There's so many things. So you have to read a lot. You have to learn a lot. You have to go for courses. And of course, when you're always learning, you'll be wise.
Yeah.
Like I said, I learn from even my mentees. I learn from younger people. So you have to be constantly in a learning mode. I mean, I read a lot about people like Jeff Bezos. I read a lot about Richard Branson.
Yeah.
And some of the things they talk about as successful people, they're basic things. I mean, Richard Branson says, you know, he does to-do lists so that he doesn't forget things. So he's not doing anything superhuman. He's very good at identifying opportunities. How did Virgin start? You know, their flight was canceled and he chartered a plane and said, everybody pay. And that's how his airline started. So it's not rocket science. So wisdom is very much needed as an entrepreneur, but I also like to say as a human being too, when you get to a certain age, you must have some wisdom, especially to, you know, prove that your gray hair is not for nothing.
Yeah. At the end, Kalada, what kind of advices can you give to young entrepreneurs, even for old entrepreneurs, maybe because we need great habits, advices to restart in 20 and 21, the new never normal era?
Okay, the first thing I'd like to say is that you must always have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because like it's basic. I mean, I think Confucius also said it, that if you fail to plan, you've planned to fail. So never stop planning. The second thing is you have to have some measure of optimism. I mean, if you keep on feeling you're going to fail all the time, you probably will fail. So you have to have some measure of optimism, and then you should know, you should be able to communicate. You should know when to ask for help. A lot of us don't ask for help. I ask my junior colleagues for advice.
Mm.
In fact, I had a recent experience. I'm in an association, and the chairman gave me an issue to deal with. And I was finding it so difficult because I was moving all over the place and having a lot of things to do. And one day, suddenly it occurred to me that, you know, he's the chairman, I'm the vice chairman. I said, let me push it to the secretary. And the secretary solved the problem. So always don't hide your problems. There's nothing wrong with having problems, but tell your problem to the right person, not to the person that's going to find it very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically, you have to have extraordinary community. You know, somebody is telling you something, you have decided that he's not saying anything important. There's nobody that doesn't have something important to say. You know, you can even learn from a madman. You know, so I think one of the important skills you need now is to listen, because there are ideas everywhere. And then be realistic. This situation in which we are in is not going to go tomorrow. It's not going to go in 2021. So if there are any skills you are missing, like creativity, digital skills, go and learn them. There's nothing wrong with, you know, asking your colleague, how do you do this on the computer? In fact, sometimes when you ask your colleagues about some of your problems you're having with IT, you discover that they're not so much more IT savvy than you.
Yeah. I want to thank you so much, Kalada APIAFI, for sharing, for having you for 1 hour talk. It was really amazing. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. You are one of my mentors, and thank you for sharing with young people, for mentorship, and also for help. I want to also thank all people watching us actually live on Facebook. This live talk will be uploaded to my YouTube channel, and I want to announce my next guest next week, Semia Melki. She was national president of JCI Tunisia in 1999, and she's one of the most outstanding trainers also in the in Africa. It will be in English, even she's Tunisian, because we will talk about something important, which is women's rights in Africa. She prepares a great project. We'll discuss it. Thank you so much, Kalada. Have a good night.
Thank you, Fares.
And hope to see you soon, maybe in JCI event or in Nigeria. You're most welcome in Tunisia when things will be better soon. Bye bye, and see you
All right
soon.
then. Bye.
Thank you.